Well, we'll take a look at the ANC headphones here. We've got 3 sets. These 2, I believe, are Senmai, and Hongsen. I have seen this one and this one before. This Zombies Cat one is kind of new to me, although I have had a listen to it. So we'll start off with Zombies Cat then. The build is really tight, it's really good. It's a mature type of build concept. Y yoke or standard calipers. It's got the metal hinged fold up, a swivel there. It feels nice and tight everywhere. No creaks or cracks or squeaks, so looks very good. The finish is nice too. That rubberized paint's lovely, and some metallized trim perhaps there. That, not sure, that may be a plastic plating, metal plating on plastic. A little trim ring there too. So overall really good. You've got your standard controls, up and down volume, multi-function button, power on off, micro type charge jack, ANC on off switch. One little complaint is the ANC on light is recessed down in the hole, so it's very easy to miss that it's still ANC on, and you can drain your battery quite easily if you've been playing with it and you take a quick look and say no, it's not on, that's it. You have to find the light and make sure. Okay, you'd get used to that pretty quickly. The air pads on this are lovely, really supple leatherette and soft foam. Yep, that's the this kind of construction is really common now. Plastic frame, twist on, twist off, glued here. That seems pretty robust for the most part. And what have you got? 1, 2, 3, 4 part stitching. It's a good little method of building it, and you get a nice shape and a nice feel too. It's very good, that. The Hongsen is a lot more plasticky, so the plastic finish is kind of a more, let's say, a lower grade of texturing on there. It's not incredibly even everywhere. A lot more floppy. That hinge is not bad though. I wonder how long that would last though. It looks like that cable gets quite a tug on it. This possibly is the same, but you can't really see, so it's harder to judge. Although, let's see, that folds up. That folds up quite nicely, actually. It just happens to be that way. This one, I think, doesn't fold up quite as well. Fairly similar, I guess. And what have we got? Same story, actually slightly different. We've got like a play pause multifunction button, then forward and back it's marked, although I guess it does volume control too. ANC on off. Again, it would be easy to miss that ANC on off light. Let's see if there's a twist off air pads. Maybe they are not actually. No, they're clipped in actually. But otherwise a fairly similar construction. Not bad, not quite as supple as this one, but it's okay. It's not too bad. Feels a lot cheaper though. Let's see what we've got here. This is the Bose style slider, so the cable coils in this area. You don't get quite as nice an even slide as this one. So your cable coiling is happening up here where you've got a lot more space. So one guesses if it's done right, this would be more durable than this style. What have we got? Got a ruler here. 27 millimeters. Click that one out. It's closer to 30. Slightly longer extension too. It helps when you've got all this, using all this space rather than just in the arm. Let's see. This one is also. Well, it's pretty fancy. There must be a hole through the middle of this part, which I can't tell. I think that's possibly plastic there, plated. It's hard to say. You can see the cable tucking into a groove here. You've got very limited movement on this one, whereas these type of calipers you get a much greater adjustment. This is the greatest by far. In fact, it can go all the way to 90 degrees. But this looks classy. It's the new style. A bit of a poor finish on that. It really needs to tuck in under these headband pad clamps, but otherwise it feels very robust. You can see the springiness. They're all pretty good metal headbands, I would say, in there. Same controls, plus minus, 3.5mm jack. Yeah, that has it too. That has it too. ANC on off switch as a separate switch there. I wonder about this. I mean, at some point you've got to say it's just ANC on or along with the Bluetooth rather than having an independent switch. It makes sense, I guess, if you just want to have ANC with nothing else running, but so be it. I guess that's a charge light there. Very limited movement there. I guess it's okay. I've used it. I don't have problems with the comfort, but at some extreme, I guess you will. Maybe it's enough. Alright, let's see what the performance looks like on these ones. We'll just see how if that's framed up. Pretty good. I'll use a cable for the audio. Plug that in. So we'll start with ANC off, which is left and which is right. That's left and right that way. Needs a little bit of extension to sit nicely. Probably could do with a bit more toe in the rest position, so you know you start to get a splayed out shape if you go too wide, so it's not that well suited to wide heads. Let's see what we get. Then we switch it on. So this is the frequency response, on and off, overlaid. I have listened to it before. It looks pretty good. It's reasonably even in the mid-range. It's not too heavy on the bass, and a good high frequency. Looks as though there is some high frequency boost on the circuitry, so in passive mode the very high frequency is down compared to active mode. There'll always be a difference in the low frequency. It's the effect of the ANC. This one is feedback only. And then we'll have a look at our ANC curve. We've got 17 and 19 as a peak. These figures here, 17.5, 19.9, are in fact the aggregate ANC over the whole spectrum. So this is a kind of a better number to use effectively. What I'll do, actually, I'll move the speakers into a slightly closer position. It's probably okay where it was, but we'll get slightly better signal level from there, so we'll switch it off again and switch it on. Yeah, basically the same result. Okay, so this aggregate number's changed a little bit. It's probably influenced by the speaker position, but that's a good one. We'll just grab a hold on that curve. What we can say is it's a nominal 20 dB, we'll call it, and it's very good, a very tidy curve. Amplification or overshoot, as the name is minimal to nil. Good depth and good bandwidth. I think this one has really good ANC. That's an excellent standard feedback ANC performance. That's what you'd expect, 20 dB. And let's see what the other ones are going to give us. I'll go with this one. Plug that in. So we'll start with ANC off. What have we got for left and right? It is marked in braille there, but I don't know which was which. The air cups say left and right, so we'll go with that. So that's the right, that's the left. Seated in. It's a little bit longer, I guess, but that seats nicely. Let's do it. Then we'll switch it on. Where's the switch? I have to find it. There, I guess. They've got quite a bit deeper there. I wonder, I had my hand hanging around a little bit, but it's reasonably similar active reduction there. I'll just run that again. Okay, let's flick that on. I think that's on there. Yep, pretty good. It's actually, the peak is a little bit higher. I guess the aggregates are kind of similar, although we can see it may not come out too well on the camera, but one channel, there's quite a big difference between the two channels, left and right. The peak is relatively high, bandwidth slightly less. Let's have a look at frequency response. Yeah, I'll get rid of the hold curve in the background so it's clearer. Yeah, there's a huge difference between left and right in active mode, especially in the low frequency. It may be a design thing, it may be this one sample, hard to say, although not uncommon when you have, in fact, maybe someone's picked away at this. We'll make sure that the air pad is seated in nicely. That could have been leaking a little bit, although this is inherently going to be a little bit more leaky if it's not done perfectly. Looks okay. Slightly tighter sample. Here we go, we'll run it again. Actually, that was ANC already on. I'll switch that off and start again. Switch that on. I'm not sure which way around I had that. Let's have a look at the ANC. That tidied it up. Okay, so one AirPad had come unstuck a little bit. Now, we actually got a slightly higher peak than the Zombies Cat, closer to kind of 25 really. So that's pretty good. And we'll go on to the next one. We'll grab a hold on that so we can compare what good ANC levels. And what have we got here? Left and right that way. And we'll switch on. Which way is it? There it is. So this one, the right channel is actually getting up to about 30, left channel is about 25. Being quite a bit of imbalance there. Let's have a look at the frequency response, get rid of that hold curve so we can see it clearly. Yeah, a bit of imbalance. Again, could be part of, very common when you have buttons and things on one side and there's an inherent imbalance. I don't know what the acoustic chamber is set up like. It could be unrelated to the buttons, could be another factor, driver differences, whatever the case. The air pads twist off, we'll give them a bit of a jiggle and we'll run it again. See if I've got that ANC off, I think I have. Then switch it on. There we go. I think pretty much identical. Yeah, 25 and 30. Bit of an imbalance on this one. The ANC level is, the peak is higher and the aggregate is again fairly similar, just the bandwidth is a bit narrower, etc, etc. Let's do one more thing before we give it up. Let's look at the passive. So in order to measure the passive, I'll have no headphones in place, then I'll put a headphone on without ANC and we'll see what we get. It says switch on ANC, but it's a difference essentially. And pretty good. So yeah, this is a fairly typical passive effect, and in your mid-range it just starts to roll off. So starting roughly at say 300-400 Hertz, you're getting passive attenuation down to a decent level. So that's okay. We'll use that one as a comparison. Actually, I don't need to worry about that. I'm not worried about the frequency response. Switch it off. And left and right doesn't really matter, but just for consistency's sake, we'll put the left and right on there. A lot less passive, a lot less. There is less passive attenuation, and in this unit, it's slightly, fairly similar, I guess, in this range, but a little bit less passive attenuation than that one. Let's try this zombie cat. Put it in place. That one is also fairly limited up until you get to very high frequencies, so there's trade-offs. There can be trade-offs in the acoustic design between passive attenuation and active attenuation. So for these two are feedback only. They have been set up to kind of give a very good feedback result, probably at the expense of some passive attenuation. That's fine. What we'll do is, and we'll get rid of that, we'll do the whole total cancellation, so nothing to ANC on. We'll see what we get. I've got it on, have I? Yes. Yeah, you get this kind of a curve, so in this around 1 kilohertz, it's actually the total reduction is not as high around the 1 kilohertz because it's a crossover between the active and the passive part. But overall, we could take the aggregate and say, okay, we're at 43, 42.9, 43.1, and we'll use that. So this is, say, 40-ish, a little over 40, call it 43, just for argument's sake. Well, we'll store that and see what we get. Now, do this one. Again, quite an imbalance there, but anyway, we'll take the lower of the two numbers, is about 43, the higher, almost 50 for a total reduction. If we add up all of the reduced area, pretty good. Let's see about this one. Where's our switch? There, we'll switch it on. Okay, I always forget the left and right. There we go, left and right. Doesn't matter, but we'll keep it consistent. And yeah, this has the highest total reduction, 50 and 60. So there is actually an imbalance between left and right. So left is not performing as well as the right. But if we were to take, the right as say that's the gold standard, it's sort of a 60. So total reduction, very good. This one is the best performance. Okay, I'm leaving aside the fact that it may be a worn out sample or whatever it is. So we'll just look at its best side, and it's doing a really good job in terms of reducing noise. I forgot to take a look at the frequency response on this one, so I'll just run it again. Have a quick look at see what the audio response looks like as a curve. Switch that on, move that a little bit. Yep, and see, yeah, basically we could call it a 25 for argument's sake. So this it's actually it's a bit clipped. Let me just back off the level slightly and run that again, because it's probably going to be about the same, but I'll just make sure. I'm not sure what I set that one to, 30, something like that, 30. Let's have a look, 30 and 30, yep, good. Just back off the level a little bit so we can get a clean signal. I think I had that switched on still, okay. Start her again. And then switch it on. yeah, same numbers, peaking around the 25. It's a good clean ANC curve. The overshoot is a little bit high, so I didn't notice this the previous round. So we were getting like +5, call it +6ish, +5 dB of noise added in the 1K region. Not the best. That can be rather irritating. And we have a look here. So active is the green and yellow lines. A little bit wobbly in the mid-range. That's that effect of that noise addition overshoot thing. And the passive is would be kind of unpleasant, I think. It's not very low bass. It's not low enough to call it bass. It's more muddy, lower mids. In active mode, it looks to be probably a reasonably good listen. So there we have it. Points off for noise addition overshoot, albeit a high level. They would, in my opinion, be better off tuning to 20, back that level off, and that overshoot will drop probably about the same amount, so you can get it back to more or less zero. You don't have to push the limits on this peak point. You're looking for, you know, an aggregate cancellation level. Okay, so that's a look at these ANC headsets. Overall, I would say, well, imbalance aside, let's have another look at this just quickly. Imbalance aside, this is probably the best for active noise reduction. It is a feed forward and feedback, a hybrid. Although that left to right difference is a little troubling. Switch it on. Yeah, it's quite a substantial difference in left to right. If we were to assume that that is, you know, just a worn out sample, or somebody's opened and closed it a few times, whatever, then fine, we ignore that and say it's great, it's fine. Frequency response is not what I like. It's very bass centric again, without being super low, so it makes it rather muddy in my opinion. The balance between high frequency and low frequencies is again bass centric, but easy enough to adjust with EQ or whatever. It's not a huge concern usually. And yeah, that's a shame. Otherwise, this would be a clear winner. I'll just run this one more time to compare. Switch it off. Switch it on. Yeah, less NC, but again, it's broad and there's not much overshoot. It would be very useful for travel and practical noise reduction. And I think the audio response is the best on this unit. So I'm going to pick the Zombies Cat as probably the best unit on balance. This one's got good ANC, but probably overdid it on the tuning. Reduced the tuning, and I guess it would be pretty much the same as or very similar to the Zombies Cat, although the audio response could do with a bit of work. And this one is got an imbalance, so very hard to say, and the audio is not my cup of tea. So there we have it. Zombies Cat, the winner.